In the vast expanse of the Andromeda-Milky Way confluence, aboard the research vessel Stellar Horizon, Chief Cynorchaeologist Zara Patel's hands trembled as she studied the readings before her. The stasis pod they'd discovered floating in the debris field of an ancient space station wasn't just another piece of space junk. It contained a living, breathing human being. "Impossible," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the gentle hum of the ship's systems. The pod's occupant showed normal vital signs, despite having been suspended in space for what their initial scans indicated was approximately 800 years. The ship's AI, VAR-DA, confirmed her suspicions. The subject's cellular structure shows no degradation. By all measurable standards, they haven't aged a day since entering stasis. Around her, the crew of various species watched in stunned silence. Her Centaurian first officer, Ageless, whose crystalline form sparkled under the laboratory lights, moved closer to examine the pod's control panel. The technology. It's unlike anything in our database. The pod's exterior was seamless, a midnight black material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No visible controls, no apparent power source, yet it had maintained perfect stasis for centuries while empires rose and fell, while humanity itself had scattered across the stars and evolved into dozens of subspecies. "Begin awakening sequence," Zara commanded, her dark eyes fixed on the pod's occupant, a woman with striking features and auburn hair, wearing what appeared to be a modified military uniform from the Lost Earth Empire era. The pod responded to her voice command, much to everyone's surprise. A soft blue light emanated from within as the preservation field began to dissipate. The woman's chest rose and fell with her first natural breath in 8 centuries. Her eyes opened. They were a startling shade of gold, a color not natural to any known human variant. She sat up with fluid grace that defied her long imprisonment, surveying the room and its occupants with an unsettling intensity. "Welcome to 3247 CE," Zara said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm Chief Cynorchaeologist Zara Patel of the research vessel Stellar Horizon. Can you tell us your name?" The woman's lips curved into a slight smile. "Lieutenant Commander Rhiannon Walsh, Earth Defense Force." Her voice was clear and strong, showing no signs of stasis degradation. "Though I suspect that organization no longer exists." "No," Zara confirmed. "The Earth Defense Force was dissolved after the Great Diaspora of 2622. Rhiannon nodded, as if this was exactly what she expected to hear. "And the Arcturus Protocol, was it successful?" The question sent a chill down Zora's spine. The Arcturus Protocol was classified information, known only to highest-level researchers. It was supposedly a last resort plan developed by Earth's final unified government, but its details had been lost to time. "How do you know about that?" Ageless demanded, their crystalline form pulsing with cautionary colors. "Because I helped design it," Rhiannon replied calmly. "And if you found me, it means the others will be awakening soon. We need to prepare." "Others?" Zara's heart raced. "There are more pods." 12 of us were sent out, scattered across different galaxies. We're humanity's insurance policy. Living records of everything our species was, is, and could be. Rhiannon's golden eyes seemed to glow brighter. "But we're also something else, something that even we didn't fully understand when we volunteered." She stood, her movements unnaturally smooth. "Your ship's sensors, have they detected any unusual quantum fluctuations in the past few weeks?" Zara exchanged glances with Ageless. The crew had been tracking bizarre energy patterns throughout the sector, but they'd attributed them to normal cosmic phenomena. "The universe is changing," Rhiannon continued, her voice taking on an urgent edge. "We were placed in stasis not just to preserve knowledge, but because humanity discovered something terrible about the nature of reality itself, something that would take centuries to unfold." She walked to the laboratory's viewport, staring out at the star-studded void. "We're not just observers, Dr. Patel. We're keys to a lock that's about to open." "And what comes through?" She trailed off, her expression darkening. Well, that depends on whether we can find the others in time. The ship's alarms suddenly blared to life. Verday's voice echoed through the chamber. Multiple quantum anomalies detected. Space-time distortions forming throughout the sector. Rhiannon turned back to face them, her ancient uniform gleaming under the emergency lights. It's starting sooner than we calculated. Humanity's greatest trial isn't in its past. It's about to begin. The Stellar Horizons observation deck had been converted into an emergency command center. Holographic displays showed the spreading quantum anomalies, tiers in spacetime that defied conventional physics. Rhiannon stood at the center of it all, her golden eyes reflecting the chaos of the data streams. For 8 centuries, I remained conscious, she revealed to the stunned crew. The stasis field preserved my body, but my mind was connected to what we called the Quantum Observatory Network. I've watched civilizations rise and fall, seen species evolve and go extinct, witnessed the birth and death of stars. Zara leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her apprehension. How is that possible? The mental strain alone should have driven you insane. Bold of you to assume it didn't, Rhiannon replied with a grim smile. The first century was challenging, but the human mind is remarkably adaptable. The network itself helped, processing and organizing the infinite stream of information into comprehensible patterns. Ageless's crystalline form shifted colors in agitation. You speak of this network, yet our most advanced scanning technology detects nothing. Because it exists in quantum superposition, Rhiannon explained. The network rides the fabric of space-time itself, using quantum entanglement on a universal scale. Each of us 12 observers is a node in that network, watching, learning, and waiting. The ship shuddered as another anomaly formed nearby. Through the viewport, they could see space itself twisting, forming impossible geometric patterns that hurt the eyes to look at directly. What we discovered, Rhiannon continued, her voice growing heavy, was that the universe is conscious. Not in the way we understand consciousness, but as a vast, incomprehensible intelligence that operates on cycles spanning billions of years. And it's beginning to wake up. Verday's holographic form materialized beside them. I've analyzed the pattern of the anomalies. They're forming a complex geometric structure across multiple dimensions. A neural network, Rhiannon confirmed. The universe is trying to think, but its thoughts are like tidal waves to insects. They'll destroy everything in their path unless properly channeled. She approached one of the displays, her fingers dancing across the interface with practiced ease, despite its advanced technology. This is why the Arcturus Protocol was created. Humanity discovered this awakening was coming and realized no single species could survive it. But information, properly preserved and distributed, could. The 12 observers, Zara breathed. You're not just records of human history. We're conduits, Rhiannon nodded. Our minds were modified to act as processing nodes, helping to manage and direct the universal consciousness as it emerges. But we need all 12 of us to complete the circuit. A new alarm blared. Verday's voice carried an edge of concern that shouldn't have been possible for an AI. Quantum fluctuations increasing, structural integrity of local spacetime dropping below safe levels. Ageless's crystalline form pulsed rapidly. We're detecting a massive object emerging from the largest anomaly. Energy signatures are impossible. The viewport filled with light as something began to take shape in the twisted space before them. It was vast, geometric, and somehow both there and not there at the same time. A structure that existed in more dimensions than the human mind could process. The first thought is manifesting, Rhiannon said quietly. We need to find the others quickly. I can sense them out there, scattered across the cosmos. But reaching them won't be easy. The universe's awakening will create distortions in spacetime that make conventional travel impossible. She turned to Zara, her golden eyes intense. Your ship has the most advanced quantum drive I've seen in all my centuries of observation. Will you help me find them? Zara looked at her crew, at the impossible phenomenon unfolding before them, and at this woman who had witnessed 800 years of cosmic history. The fate of all conscious life hung in the balance. "Plot a course," she commanded. "Where do we start?" Rhiannon's expression was grim but determined. "The nearest observer is in the Carina Nebula. But we're not the only ones looking for them. There are entities, older than human civilization, who want this awakening to proceed unchecked. They've been waiting for this moment for billions of years." The ship's engines hummed to life as they prepared to jump. Through the viewport, the geometric manifestation continued to grow, its impossible angles threatening to tear apart the fabric of reality itself. "Welcome to humanity's last stand," Rhiannon said softly. "Let's hope we're ready for it." The Carina Nebula loomed before them, its vast clouds of gas and dust illuminated by the light of newborn stars. But something was wrong. Where there should have been the usual stellar nursery traffic, mining vessels, and research stations, there was only debris and silence. "We're too late," Rhiannon said, her golden eyes fixed on the graveyard of ships floating before them. "They're already here." The stellar horizon's sensors painted a grim picture. The wreckage showed signs of weapons far beyond current technological levels. Clean cuts through hull metal, matter simply erased from existence, and spatial distortions that turned ships inside out. "The precursors," Rhiannon explained, her voice tight. "That's what we call them. They'd been waiting in the spaces between galaxies, watching evolution unfold across the cosmos. This universal awakening. They want to shape it, control it, use it to remake reality in their image." Zara studied the tactical display, her training warring with her fear. "How do we fight something that powerful?" "We don't," Rhiannon replied. "We outthink them. The precursors understand space and time, but they don't understand people. They can't comprehend the chaos and creativity of organic minds. That's why they fear us." A signal caught Varday's attention, detecting a quantum signature matching observer protocols. "It's coming from within the nebula's core." Rhiannon closed her eyes, connecting to the ancient network that spanned space and time. "It's Marcus Kennedy. He was our quantum physicist, the one who first theorized the network could exist. The precursors haven't found him yet, but they're close." Angsulara's crystalline form shifted to battle configurations, edges becoming sharp and defensive. "The nebula's radiation will blind most of our sensors. We'll be going in nearly blind. Then we use what they don't expect," Rhiannon said. She approached the ship's quantum core, placing her hand on its housing. Golden light spread from her fingers, interfacing with the ship's systems in ways that shouldn't have been possible. "I can link the network to your quantum drive. We'll navigate using the universe's own neural pathways." The ship shuddered as new energy coursed through its systems. The view screens filled with information in languages none of the crew recognized, the raw data of reality itself. "Multiple contacts," Varday announced. "Precursor vessels entering the nebula. Their configuration suggests they're aware of our presence." Rhiannon's expression hardened. "They'll expect us to run or fight. Instead, we'll do something uniquely human. We'll improvise." She turned to Zara. "Your ship's waste recycling system, it uses matter-energy conversion." Zara nodded, beginning to understand. "We can vent the recycling plasma into the nebula's gas clouds," Rhiannon finished. "The network can help me calculate the exact points of dispersal when the precursors try to track us." The plan took shape quickly. The stellar horizon dove into the nebula, its hull creaking under the strain of radiation and gravity. Behind them, sleek vessels of impossible geometry gave chase, their weapons reaching out with fingers of distorted spacetime. But Rhiannon was ready. At her command, the ship released carefully calculated bursts of plasma into specific points in the nebula. The energy interacted with the gas clouds, creating a cascade of quantum reactions. To the precursor sensors, suddenly there were hundreds of quantum signatures identical to their quarry, scattering in all directions. "Their vessels are breaking pursuit," Angsulara reported, their crystalline form pulsing with excitement. They can't track us through the interference. Take us down, Rhiannon commanded. Straight to the core. Marcus is waiting. The stellar horizon plunged deeper into the nebula, where the very forces of creation were still at work. Through swirling clouds of stardust and newborn solar systems, they descended toward a structure that didn't belong. A perfect sphere of darkness, floating in the stellar maelstrom. Another stasis pod, Zara breathed. Not exactly, Rhiannon said grimly. Marcus was brilliant, but unstable. When the time came for preservation, he did something different. He didn't just preserve his body and mind. He merged himself with the very fabric of space-time. What we're seeing isn't a pod. It's a quantum singularity containing his consciousness. The sphere pulsed with dark energy as they approached, as if recognizing their presence. Around them, reality began to warp and twist, the laws of physics becoming suggestions rather than rules. How do we get him out? Zara asked. Rhiannon's golden eyes gleamed. We don't. We go in after him. And what we find inside will either save us all or tear the universe apart. The transition into Marcus's quantum singularity felt like being turned inside out while simultaneously experiencing every possible reality at once. The crew of the Stellar Horizon found themselves in what appeared to be an infinite library, stretching in all directions, where books wrote themselves and reality flickered between possibilities like pages in the wind. Marcus always did have a flair for the dramatic, Rhiannon said, her voice echoing strangely in the impossible space. This is his mind's way of organizing universal data, making the incomprehensible comprehensible. Zara watched in awe as equations floated through the air, forming complex patterns that seemed to describe the very nature of existence. Ancillara's crystalline form refracted the strange light, creating cascading rainbows that told their own mathematical stories. Welcome to my humble archive. A voice resonated from everywhere and nowhere. A figure emerged from between the endless shelves. A tall man with silver hair that moved like mercury and eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. Rhiannon, you're late. Marcus Kennedy, Rhiannon acknowledged. You've gone native in here. He smiled, and in that smile were the depths of stars. I've become something new, something necessary. The universe is awakening. It's not what we thought it was, Rhiannon. We were so wrong. So wonderfully, terribly wrong. The library shuddered, books falling from shelves and reality crackling at the edges. Through windows that shouldn't exist, they could see the precursor ships circling the singularity, preparing something massive. They're trying to collapse the quantum bubble, Marcus said calmly. They think they can capture my consciousness when it destabilizes. They don't understand what they're dealing with. None of us did, back then. Rhiannon's golden eyes narrowed. Explain. The Arcturus Protocol wasn't just about preserving humanity's knowledge or managing the universe's awakening consciousness. Marcus gestured, and the library transformed around them into a vast star map. Look at the pattern. Look where each of us was placed. As they watched, points of light appeared, showing the locations of all 12 observers. When connected, they formed a complex geometric pattern that seemed to pulse with its own inner meaning. It's a key, Zara breathed, her scientific mind racing ahead to the implications. No, Marcus corrected. It's a lock. Humanity discovered something far worse than an awakening universe. They discovered that our reality, our entire universe, is artificial, created, and it's about to be unmade. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Rhiannon staggered, centuries of observations suddenly realigning themselves into a new and terrifying pattern. The precursors, Marcus continued, aren't trying to control the universe's awakening. They're trying to prevent what comes after. The 12 of us, in our specific positions across space-time, we create a quantum barrier, a wall between what is and what was never meant to be. Another tremor shook the conceptual space. Through the windows, they could see the precursor weapons powering up, reality-destroying energies building to impossible levels. But you've done something else here, haven't you? Rhiannon accused. You're not just observing. You've been experimenting. Marcus's smile turned sad. I found a way to punch through the barrier, to see what's on the other side. Would you like to know what I saw? Before he could answer, the singularity shuddered violently. The library began to fragment, books bursting into clouds of living information. Marcus's form flickered like a bad transmission. They're breaking through, Ageless warned, their crystalline form resonating with dangerous frequencies. No time for the full explanation then, Marcus said. His form began to dissolve into pure data. Take it. Take everything I've learned. Someone has to know. Someone has to understand what we're really fighting. He reached out, his consciousness streaming into Rhiannon's mind through the network connection. Her golden eyes blazed with new power as 8 centuries of Marcus's observations and discoveries poured into her. Get her out, Marcus commanded as his form dispersed completely. The answer isn't in fighting what's coming. It's in understanding why humanity was chosen to stop it in the first place. The library collapsed around them, reality twisting back on itself. The crew found themselves back on the Stellar Horizons bridge just as the precursor weapons fired. The quantum singularity containing Marcus's consciousness imploded, taking 3 precursor ships with it in a reality-bending shockwave. Rhiannon stood motionless, her mind processing centuries of new information. When she finally spoke, her voice was heavy with the weight of revelation. Now I understand, she whispered. It's not about saving the universe. It's about saving what comes next. And humanity. Humanity was never just another species evolving in the cosmos. We were created for this moment. We're the antibodies of reality itself. The ship's sensors screamed as more precursor vessels emerged from the nebulous swirling clouds. But Rhiannon's golden eyes were fixed on something else, a pattern in the quantum foam of space-time that pointed toward their next destination. The third observer, she said, I know where they are. And more importantly, I know why they're waiting. The edges of the known universe were never meant to be seen by human eyes. Yet here, the stellar horizon drifted, in the space between spaces, where reality frayed into possibility. After 3 harrowing weeks of quantum jumping, evading precursor forces, and gathering 5 more observers, they had arrived at the final coordinates Marcus's data had revealed. Rhiannon stood at the viewport, her golden eyes reflecting the impossible colors of the cosmic boundary. The other observers they'd rescued, a quantum engineer, a temporal theorist, a consciousness researcher, and 2 others whose roles defied traditional titles, worked at various stations, their combined knowledge interfacing with the ship's systems in ways that transformed the vessel into something far beyond its original design. The barrier between realities is thinnest here, Rhiannon explained to Zara and the crew. What we're seeing isn't empty space. It's the membrane between our universe and what lies beyond. Through the enhanced sensors, they could see it, a vast web of energy that encompassed the entire observable universe, with 12 distinct nodes pulsing in harmony. 7 of those nodes now resided on the stellar horizon. The remaining 5 had gone silent. The precursors found them first, said Isabella, the quantum engineer they'd rescued from a time-locked bubble near the galactic core. Her eyes, like all the observers, shone with the same golden light as Rhiannon's. But they didn't understand what they were destroying. Each observer they eliminated weakened the barrier. As if in response to her words, reality shuddered. Through the viewport, they watched as something began to press against the fabric of space-time. Shapes and geometries that the human mind couldn't process, concepts given form that threatened to shatter sanity. They're here, Ageless announced, their crystalline form vibrating with alarm. Precursor vessels, hundreds of them. The enemy ships emerged from quantum space in a display of overwhelming force. But they didn't attack. Instead, they formed a complex 3-dimensional pattern around the stellar horizon, their impossible geometries resonating with the barrier itself. A transmission cut through all frequencies, all languages, speaking directly into their minds. You have brought them together, You have done our work for us. Rhiannon's expression shifted to one of grim satisfaction. No, you've done ours. At her signal, the 7 observers moved in perfect synchronization. Golden light erupted from their eyes as they accessed the full power of the network. The ship's quantum core pulsed with energies it was never designed to channel. Humanity wasn't created to stop the universe from being unmade, Rhiannon declared, her voice layered with the knowledge of 8 centuries. We were created to understand why it needed to end. The observers linked hands, forming a circuit of consciousness that extended through the network and into the barrier itself. Through their enhanced perception, the crew watched in awe as the true pattern emerged. Not a lock, not a wall, but a bridge. This universe is dying, Rhiannon continued as reality began to transform around them. Not from entropy, not from awakening, but from completion. It has served its purpose, and humanity. Humanity was seated here to ensure that what comes next remembers what came before. The precursor ships began to fire, their reality-destroying weapons reaching out to stop what had already begun. But they were too late. The observers had become a conduit, not just for information or energy, but for the very essence of human consciousness, creativity, adaptability, resilience, and most importantly, the ability to embrace change. We're not here to prevent the end, Rhiannon announced as the barrier began to dissolve. We're here to ensure the next beginning learns from this ending. Space itself began to fold, not in the violent way the precursors had attempted, but in a controlled transformation. The stellar horizon, the precursor fleet, and the very fabric of reality began to shift into something new, something that incorporated the best of what had come before, while becoming something entirely unprecedented. As the transformation reached its peak, Zora understood at last. The human mind, with its unique capacity for adaptation and imagination, wasn't a mutation or an accident. It was a seed, planted by whatever came before, designed to grow into something that could bridge the gap between universal deaths and rebirths. The observers' golden eyes blazed with impossible light as they channeled the collective knowledge and experience of humanity, not just their own 8 centuries of observation, but the entire human experience, into the framework of the emerging reality. This isn't an ending, Rhiannon said softly as the last vestiges of the old universe began to fade. It's an inheritance. The precursor ships dissolve, their purpose revealed as ultimately futile. They had tried to preserve what needed to change, to maintain what needed to evolve. In their fear of the unknown, they had nearly prevented the most important transformation in the history of existence. As the new reality crystallized around them, the crew of the stellar horizon found themselves not destroyed, but transformed. They had become part of something greater, not just observers of cosmic history, but participants in cosmic evolution. The golden light in the observer's eyes spread, touching everything, connecting all consciousness in a network that would form the foundation of the next universe's laws of physics. Humanity's greatest qualities, curiosity, compassion, creativity, and courage, became woven into the very fabric of the new reality. Remember, Rhiannon's voice echoed through the transformation, carrying the weight of ancient wisdom and the promise of infinite possibility. We were never meant to be the end of the story. We were always meant to be the beginning of the next chapter. And in that moment of ultimate change, as one universe ended and another began, humanity's true purpose was finally fulfilled, not to prevent the inevitable, but to ensure that what was best about existence would carry forward into what was to come. The story didn't end. It transformed, evolved, and began anew, with humanity's essence embedded in its very foundations, an eternal testament to the species that learned to see endings not as failures, but as opportunities for rebirth.